the domestic money market today to raise 5.428 billion cedis through the sale of treasury bills as it seeks to maintain a streak of consecutive oversubscriptions. The borrowing exercise, designated Tender 2021, will cover 3 standard treasury bill tenors, offering investors another opportunity to participate in government's domestic financing program. And this 3 Business News Desk report has more.
Government says the funds are needed to meet immediate debt obligations, including the settlement of maturing liabilities, while also supporting the financing of the 2026 national budget. The latest auction comes amid continued government efforts to mobilize funds from the domestic markets to meet its financing needs. 3 Business is closely monitoring investor appetite for the securities, particularly whether demand will once again exceed the 5.428 billion cedis targeted by government. A 9th consecutive oversubscription would signal sustained investor interest in government securities and provide some indication of prevailing liquidity conditions in the domestic financial market. The outcome of the auction is also expected to offer fresh insight into borrowing cost and investor confidence in the domestic debt market.
That was a 3 Business News Desk report on government's targeting 5.43 billion cedis in treasury bill borrowing in fresh debt auction. Now, former Bank of Ghana First Deputy Governor Dr. Maxwell Opoku Afari says Ghana's banking sector was undercapitalized for much of the decade preceding the 2017 financial sector cleanup. According to him, there were weaknesses in governance and risk management, leaving the system increasingly vulnerable to crisis. There's more in this 3 Business News Desk report.
In a paper titled How Not to Miss a Crisis, Lessons from Ghana, Dr. Opoku Afari said the 2017 to 2019 banking sector cleanup and recapitalization was critical to restore confidence, resolve weak institutions, and strengthen prudential standards. He noted, however, that the interventions came at a significant fiscal cost, with the resolution and cleanup of the domestic banking system costing about 7.1% of GDP between 2017 and 2021. He said the state absorbed much of the cost because Ghana did not have an effective deposit insurance framework at the time. Dr. Opoku Afari also disclosed that recapitalization bonds, equivalent to about 2.6% of GDP, were issued to support undercapitalized banks. He said persistent fiscal deficits, weak revenue mobilization, quasi-fiscal operations, and rising government exposure within the banking system were visible before the crisis, but corrective action was delayed. According to him, the growing resilience on domestic borrowing eventually deepened the sovereign bank nexus, increasing the financial and macroeconomic costs of any loss of market confidence.
Meanwhile, the Center for Environmental Management and Sustainable Energy, CEMSI, is calling for an upgrade of electricity infrastructure in the Volta Enclave to higher transmission levels of either 161 kilovolts or 330 kilovolts to meet rising power consumption in the area. The call follows the latest power outage recorded at about 4:30 a.m. on August 20, 2026.
The outage was attributed to a major fault on the Akonsombo Volta transmission lines, affecting power supply and prompting calls for urgent restoration efforts. Executive Director at CEMSI, Benjamin Insia, says upgrading the transmission system would help improve reliability and ensure the infrastructure can adequately support increasing electricity demand in the enclave. The demand has also renewed calls for a comprehensive technical assessment of Ghana's national grid to identify vulnerabilities and guide long-term investments in the country's power infrastructure.
They cannot continue to rely on a system that was constructed in the 1980s, which is around 69 kV. It is too low for them, and because of the low capacity in terms of evacuating this particular power to some bulk supply points around the area, it always causes this cascading effect of large-scale outages.
SEM says urge an increased investment to upgrade and expand Ghana's power transmission network, including parallel lines that can provide redundancy and help reduce the impact of system failures and outages.
It is incumbent on the Ministry of Finance, also incumbent on the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition to make sure that in the 2027 budget, there are certain allocations to critical infrastructure in the energy sector, especially in the transmission system or network. If you are not able to allocate such resources to support GRIDCO to upgrade its infrastructure, I believe that the grid will always come at a halt. And if the grid continues, it's likely also going to put a lot of pressure on thermal generation and also hydro generation.
To some of the stories now, and the Food and Drugs Authority FDA recorded a 70 million cedi surplus in 2025, representing a 51% increase from the previous year. The authority's total assets also rose to 358 million cedis, while liabilities declined significantly to 3.4 million cedis. Despite the improved financial position, the FDA says aging laboratory equipment and illicit products remain major challenges to effective public health protection. The FDA processed more than 24,000 product applications and inspected over 47,000 consignments at the ports during the year. The authority also retrieved more than 215,000 non-compliant products as part of intensified market surveillance and enforcement. Now, let's take a look at how the cedi is faring against major trading currencies and how some of the key commodities are also faring on the global markets.
On the interbank foreign exchange market, where banks trade amongst themselves, the dollar is selling at 11 cedis 10 pesos. It gained 2 pesos. The British pound is selling at 15 cedis 13 pesos. It gained 6 pesos. The euro is selling at 12 cedis 96 pesos. It gained 4 pesos. However, be guided that these figures will be higher at a forex bureau near you. On the global commodities market, Brent crude is trading at $93.49 per barrel. Gold is trading at $4,529.24 per ounce, up by $13.66. Cocoa is trading at $6,064 per ton, up by $33.
That's it for business news on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, kindly check out our website at 3news.com. My name is Nura Mohammed. Mawina Egbeta is on standby to carry on with Sunrise. Stay tuned.